So joined just off Beale Street in lovely downtown Memphis, Tennessee, the voice of the Toronto Raptors, Matt Devlin, as the Raptors start what probably is the most important road trip of the season, I would assume. Is that correct, Matt?
It's certainly up to this point is something that has to happen. There's no question about that. With respect to, you're going to get an opportunity here to really have a sense and feel as to what direction do they ultimately go. Is Pascal a part of this, or you have 5 weeks until the trade deadline, and that'll give you certainly an idea of what they may ultimately want to do. By the way, Memphis, home of Elvis Barbecue and the Blues. What's better than that?
Oh, nice time.
Bob is being Bob.
How
so
bad is this?
you.
How bad do you
It's
think
so
this team is?
I don't think they're that bad. Look, there's a couple of different things. I think that in theory, OG, Pascal, and Scotty should have worked the old line of shoulda, woulda, coulda. It did not for various reasons. And so then I really believe the deal that they just made, which surprised a lot of people from a timing standpoint, I really like. And there's a multiple levels to this why. Number one is in today's NBA, there is just an absolute clutter of lottery picks out there. Look at Detroit, okay? Everybody says, well, draft picks. They were in the lottery one time, and they got their guy in Scotty Barnes. And you talk to people in the NBA, and they truly believe this is a perennial all-star, superstar caliber player, and he's 22. So now from a timeline perspective, can you get some young players that have some skill sets that can play alongside that? And they just did that. Emmanuel Quickly, a lot of people believe he was a backcourt mate of Tyrese Maxey at Kentucky. They believe that he has that ability. The numbers actually bear that out, that he has the ability to shoot the three. The numbers are there, has the ability, floater, get to the iron. So those are really good. He's 24 years old. And the Knicks didn't want to lose him, but they admitted that there was no place for him in their system because of Jalen Brunson. Mm-hmm. And then you bring in RJ Barrett, who has averaged 18 points in his career. By the way, he's 23 years old, right? He's 23 years old and already has a resume in the NBA. And he has somebody that has dealt with the pressures of playing in New York. And so to me, those two players coming in are huge because they're both going to play a lot more minutes than certainly two of the three players that were in that deal. The other thing that really nobody's talking about that I really like in the deal, the second round pick in a year in which everybody says it's a down year with the draft, you want to have the best second round pick. Why? Because it's non-guaranteed money. You're not locked in. So would you rather have a late first round pick, or would you rather have 31, 32? And it's a Detroit pick. So you'd rather have 31, 32 because then you're not tied into that money, right? And a lot of people feel that you can get the same player actually 10 through 35 in that draft. So I think that that is certainly an asset that a lot of people have overlooked. And the other thing I'm going to add to this, Tyrese Maxey started 21 games last year. He averaged 22 points, shot 40% from three. This year, he's missed 2 games, one against the Raptors, and then on Saturday, when he heard about the trade, when he was traveling back to New York to get his passport. You look at, since his rookie year, you look at games played, he plays. And when you look at RJ over the last 4 years since his rookie year, when you look at the numbers, he's averaging 72 games a year, and that's important. And so I really, and I'm going to add this, huge OG fan. I think it's going to work for both teams. I think it's going to work for both teams. And then the other factor to this is, do both of you, right, feel comfortable in paying OG what OG wants in free agency? And the
Well,
number
not
Bob
only
wanted him
that, but
traded
can
back.
you afford to do that?
Well, that's what. So, you know, when you know that somebody is seeking close to 40 a year, you know, that's, you know, so from a timeline perspective, I really like this deal. And now you're going to see alongside, you mentioned earlier, John, about the importance of this road trip. The importance of the road trip is just, okay, how, you know, how is all this going to work out with Pascal? And then you kind of see what ultimately develops. But another, I'm going to say it, it's another master stroke. It really is. You look at the big deals, you look at the timeline of what Masai has done going back to Denver with Carmelo. He does things on his time. You know, he's never forced into one way or another. And to get a 23-year-old and a 24-year-old, to me, there's an immense amount of value. I always say people can get lost in the lottery. Oh, you know, Oklahoma City's handled it exceptionally well, but who's their best player? They got in a trade, a young player with years, a couple of years that they got in a trade that everybody in the league were like, okay. Even Doc Rivers came out and said, hey, Kawhi, you'll love playing next to Shea. You know, no, I want Paul George. Okay.
Hey, you made me smile, Matt, when you said that Quickly had to go back to New York to get his passport. And that's the difference between a Canadian and an American. You know, RJ's always carrying his passport. And
Well, I don't
Quickly
know.
wasn't carrying it.
No, I think he was. I think RJ had to go back too. They were in Indiana. I don't think they were carrying their passports.
Oh, don't people carry their passports everywhere? Come on now, you got
I mean,
to be for these
yeah,
things.
no. He actually RJ had to go back too to grab his. So, you know, but I you know, obviously I've known RJ for a long time, seen him play, met him when he was really young, through his dad, Rowan. And this is what I love about both of the players, and you've always heard it about RJ, is his competitive drive and spirit and his work ethic. And, you know, that's the same thing with respect to Emmanuel Quickly. He's competitive and he's got a work ethic. And, you know, those two things are really important. They're really young, and I like it. And I think this really sets up the Raptors nicely. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean play in? Yeah, I think they could get there for sure. And then you start growing.
Before we talk about the team,
Yeah.
before we talk about the team specifically, you talked about RJ, you know, playing at Madison Square Garden. But is there more pressure for Barrett to play in Toronto or to play at MSG?
MSG.
Really?
So
more than the expectation of Canadians and coming home?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, no, playing in New York, Hubie Brown once told me about the pressure of playing in New York. And he's like, you want pressure? Go to Madison Square Garden. Now, this is going back 20 some odd years ago, right? So he goes, you want pressure? He goes, go play at Madison Square Garden where you got the ball in your hands, taking the last shot, and everybody in that arena's got action on the game. That's pressure. Because guess what? Interestingly enough, I went back and as I was prepping for the game, you know, the other day, I said, what game is bigger than any game during the regular season at the Garden? It's Christmas Day.
Sure.
Christmas Day game at the Garden is huge. I mean, it's just there's not a regular season game more important than that, just because everybody's out, all the eyeballs are on. Emmanuel quickly, 20 points in 23 minutes, 7 of 10 shooting. RJ Barrett, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 8 of 14 shooting in 28 minutes. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think they're ready.